Electoral body INEC has asked the Court of Appeal to vary an order allowing the People's Democratic Party and Labour Party to inspect materials used for the presidential election, especially the Bvas machines. INEC says it must reconfigure the Bvas for the governorship polls, and data for both elections cannot exist side by side. The Commission is concerned that the order could constitute a delay and may warrant a postponement of the election. INEC is now seeking a counter-court order to reconfigure the machines early enough for at least 5 days before the elections. In the meantime, the court has not fixed a date to hear the INEC application.
All right, so we're joined now by legal practitioner and notary public of Nigeria, Abumere Osara. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. Help us understand exactly what INEC is praying the court, saying that if the PDP and, of course, the Labour Party are allowed to investigate the electoral processes, that it may end up pushing forward the governorship election. What do you make of all of that?
Good evening, viewers. Thank you, Ngozi, for having me. Looking at the situation on the ground, it seems to me that we are in a very delicate, we have a very delicate situation on our hands, having regard to the fundamental centrality of the Bvas machine and the information stored therein to the credibility and integrity of the election process. Now, you recall that the purpose of Bvas was to enhance the credibility and integrity of the election process with regard to cutting out the illegalities and suspicion usually associated with collation of election results after the announcement of the results at the polling unit. In this direction, we were informed by INEC that at the end of voting at each polling unit, that the vote will be counted, the results announced to the persons present at the polling unit and their agents, and a screenshot of the result sheet at the polling unit will be uploaded or transferred to a portal at the INEC office, and that thereafter information regarding the conduct of election at that unit, namely the number of accredited voters, the result of that polling at that polling unit, will be input into the Bvas machine, signed by, and you have to remember that the result sheet is already by this time signed by the polling agents. And then thereafter, the results will be put in the tamper-evident envelope and taken to the ward registration area. Now, we are all aware of the challenges associated with transfer or transmission or uploading of results from the polling unit to the IREV portal on the 25th of February. And after that election, there has been a series of hue and cry and allegations and counter-allegations regarding the transparency of the elections conducted on that day, particularly with respect to collation of the authentic result, the actual results obtained from the polling unit.
Let's jump in here. Quickly here, apologies for butting in. Nigerians already have this background. Yeah. Quickly, the issue now has to do with INEC going to court saying, well, give us time to reconfigure. And the question here will be, the legality, number one, and the time frame, given that this election will be holding in the next 6 days. So let us in on what you think may ultimately happen between now and then to avert some of the complaints or anomalies you've noted.
I think what INEC is proposing to do is a very dangerous proposal or proposition. If not carefully handled, it has the potential of creating serious problems in the country. Having regard to the issues, challenges already associated with the result declared and announced by INEC. I think that perhaps the best thing for INEC to do in the circumstance would be to either call on all the political parties and the stakeholders, including the CSOs and election observers, including international election observers, and explain to all and sundry what actually it intends to achieve by the application they have filed before the court. Because my understanding is that when you reconfigure, you are trying to arrange or put together something in a new or different way. You are trying to arrange or put together something in a new or different way. And the question that naturally will arise will be, when you reconfigure, what happens to the information and data or records already stored in the Bvas machine? Would they be preserved? Would they be wiped off? Would they be erased? Now, if this data or information, if they are erased or wiped off, what materials is available for those wishing to challenge or contest the election, rely on to prove their claim to have won the election? Don't forget, we are talking about election not only to the presidential position, but also to the Senate and to the House of Rep. And I gather from what we read in the news that several persons are gearing up to challenge the outcome of the election. And most of them are hoping to rely on the information and data stored on the Bvas machine. Because what the Bvas machine is supposed to do is to record real-time results that were garnered from each of the polling units in the country. So now, if you now embark on the process of reconfiguration and you wipe off or erase the record of the data or the information stored in the Bvas machine, what are you telling us? INEC should realize that the enormity. Yes.
What are your concerns? If I hear you clearly, if INEC reconfigures, if it goes ahead to reconfigure the Bvas machines, there's a likelihood that evidence that may be provided by the PDP and the Labour Party may be tampered with. How do you think this will affect the upcoming governorship and state assembly elections?
Now, that is why my recommendation will be to suggest to INEC to come out clean and tell Nigerians and then the political actors, the political parties, the CSOs, the local international observers, what actually they intend to achieve by this reconfiguration. But for the life in me, I would have thought that INEC would have come up with a system that has the capacity to record materials and information, not only with respect to the presidential and national assembly election, but also at the same time, the governorship election. If by reconfiguring the Bvas machine, the information and data regarding and relating to the presidential and national assembly election will be wiped off, my advice to INEC would be to suspend to suspend in the interest of the nation, in the interest of the peace and security of the nation. Because you find out that all over the country is faced with several challenges, security challenges. We have the challenge in the northeast, we have the challenge of banditry, and we have security challenges in the southeast. Now, one can imagine what will happen if persons who are aggrieved by the outcome of the results of 25th February Presidential and National Assembly election, how are they going to react to this situation? Now, the Constitution has given the right to every person who participated in the February 25 election, who is aggrieved by the outcome of the election, to approach a tribunal to challenge. The Constitution also guarantees, and the electoral also guarantees, for every petitioner access to materials and evidence that will require to prove or disprove his claim to having won or lost the election. Now, if you reconfigure and wipe off or remove or delete those sensitive materials, those vital information relating to the record of results at each polling unit, you have a situation whereby you leave the petitioners bereft of any evidence or material to prove their case. And that's not the intention of the Constitution or the intention of the Electoral Act. And one, you cannot know for now how those aggrieved persons will react to that kind of situation. You can imagine a situation where at the end of the day you are before the Election Petition Tribunal and you are told that INEC is no longer in possession of the evidence that you require to establish your matter because INEC has wiped off such evidence. That would be injustice, not only to the petitioners, but also to the person that won the election. So I would advise INEC to realize that they have an all-important national duty on their hand and that they should tread carefully and put into account the interest. Hello?
All right, Abumere Osara, I'd like to thank you very much. Points noted, and I hope INEC must have heard and listened to you. Abumere Osara, legal practitioner, he joined us from Lagos.